asked back in January to work on getting some merchandise, and the first samples just started to come in. Here's it's going to. Here we go. That's a hat, and
Nice.
Ew.
Hey.
then there's a beanie thing too. See if this will. I get it without. Gotta keep it. Oh, come on.
Ah.
Let me change the background.
Put it on your
There you
head. Just put it on your head, Tom.
Yeah, put it on your head. There you go.
There you go.
I see it, Scott. Yeah.
Hey,
Hey, there you go.
Cute.
It says DVAA on it.
I love it.
Um, there's a couple shirts and sweatshirt. I got a sweatshirt, a polo shirt, a t-shirt, baseball cap, and a beanie I'm going to bring to the meeting on Friday so people can check them out. Um, there's a solid hat too. Women's, this is actually pink, but versus like the two-tone, same price. Um, but anyway, so I think we've worked out the pricing, but the big challenge is going to be the logistics of ordering this stuff. So I was looking at there's a module called Storefront on Club Express on the website that you can set up. It's not set up to do anything now, but theoretically, it's meant to do things like sell hats and shirts and things like that for your club, and then ship it somewhere. And we wouldn't ship. We'd have a free pickup option, and people could pick them up at the meeting or at Valley Forge or whatever. But I'm gonna just talk briefly about it on Friday, so to gauge the interest in this. But anyway,
Hey, Tom, was there an option to do a vest at all?
a what?
A vest?
Not a vest. They have hoodies.
Hmm.
They have plain hoodies. They have zipper hoodies. We got the baseball cap, sweatshirt, t-shirts, um, beanie type thing. I didn't see any vest. That doesn't mean they wouldn't do it on a vest, but what it may mean is you'd have to buy your own vest and they would embroider it.
That might be something we want to, if there's enough interest, we might want to look to see. Because, I mean, you think about it, for what we do, a vest is actually a good piece of apparel.
I mean, for a,
Yeah, there's one.
oh, there you go.
Hey.
That's from quite a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean,
I still use it.
yeah, who,
Hmm?
Don McLaren had one of those, and there was a link on the website to our logo. It was a JPEG that was in really kind of bad condition. The stars didn't have points. It was all kinds of problems. So it must have been like a hand-me-down, like 10 generations old from the hats that were made back 10 years ago or so. So I took it in and I played with it and I got it back to where it looked like the original with pointed stars and everything just being right, and got that, and then took it over to a place that does this sort of thing.
Do we
So
still use the Pleiades as a logo?
yeah,
Because that's
that's
what
going to
this
be the
is.
same thing. Yeah,
Yeah, it's the
I'll uh,
Pleiades.
I'll put this on. I'll have to expand it maybe
Hmm.
for my head. If I don't wear it, it won't come in. It won't show up, I guess.
I have a hoodie zip-up hoodie sweatshirt with the same logo.
Right, that's what these will kind of be. So we'll see where we are with this. People seem to think that there would be a big market. We'll see. I can't quite get that.
It's been a long time. That
But
was ages
anyway,
ago, right, Wayne? When there's
there's
Yeah,
I'll put that over my head so I'll go like this so you can see it better.
yeah, I
But
like those.
yeah,
I like the
yeah. It's been
two-tone
quite a
caps
while.
myself.
Yeah.
I have an old sweatshirt. It's got to be 20 years old, I'm sure.
It was done a long time ago because Don McLaren didn't come around to the club for at least 10 years, and now he's back. He came back a few months ago. and he comes to all the meetings now, and he's back in. So, but he's the one that had the logo, and I was like, oh, that's kind of neat, because we had talked about it for the last couple of years about getting some merch in the business meetings, but it's uh it's a bit of a to do it, and so they picked somebody who wasn't working, who had the time to play around with this to make it work. It's a lot of nits to this. Uh, but we're pretty far along now. We got the image and we got a place and we've got the logo is digitized for the embroidery. The t-shirts I got made were not screened because the screen mask costs money. And rather for just a sample, we got a what's called a DTF, which is a transfer. It's kind of a decal, kind of like what the Franklin Institute did back on the Philadelphia Science Fair things. They gave those T-shirts out to volunteers. Those, but the problem with the DTF is the good thing is the stars can have color. You can have color in your logos and all, but the problem is after a little while they start to crack, especially in that dryer on hot. They just crack. Whereas a screen shirt lasts a lot longer in the original condition, but it's all one color. So we don't have much color in this. We have a red, blue, and green star, I think. It looks kind of neat, but on the screen versions, they would just be all white or all black, depending on the color of the shirt.
Yeah, I've got red, blue, and yellow stars
Yeah,
on
yeah,
here.
that's you
One
with the
of each.
embroidery, they can do that. It's not a problem. And that's what I have. Basically, the only thing that's not going to be embroidered because the beanie, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, they're all going to be the embroidered style. Excuse me, which means they will have the three color stars in it. Just the screen shirts won't. But
Mhm.
I got to figure out the. Been watching tutorials this afternoon on how to set the storefront up to do it because you got to set, just everything up and put pictures and sizes and colors and all that kind of. It's a whole harangue actually on the website to set it up. I've never actually added a module on the website, so this is my first try at it. I'll probably crash the website, which
Uh-oh.
if it goes down, you understand why.
Back up the website.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be safe, but we'll see.
Well, cool. We'll look forward to it, Tom. I think it's going to be a good opportunity. I could definitely use my old Denkmeyer hat is getting a little
A little
old.
long in the tooth.
Yeah, it was from an early Neef. When I bought a pair of uh Bino viewers from them. They were giving away hats this one year. I don't know if they do it every year, but that was the only time I bought something from them. So I think Mike Atwell and I got our Bino viewers at the same time. And we both wound up, driving home with our Denkmeyer hat.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Tom,
Yeah.
are the hats sized or is it one
They're
size?
all one
fits all?
side. They have these adjustable straps on the back.
So one size fits all.
Yeah. I mean, these are cloth straps on these. You can kind of see them there. Oop,
There it is.
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
So it's a one size adjustable.
One size
Yeah.
fits most.
Got a t-shirt with a little more color, but my
Wow.
wife fabric painted some color on the stars. So they didn't come with those colors originally.
Yeah, that was probably
She
one of
just
those
added some color.
DTF things, where they do it. You can do it with multiples, I guess, with screening, but it's a
Mhm.
multi-step
Although
process.
actually, these stars are starting to peel.
Yeah, okay. It's the decal thing then, yeah. That's the disadvantage, that's the one disadvantage. But you can have color in your images too, so there's a positive there.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes. We'll see what the interest is and try to keep it from getting way out of hand as far as one of 150 items, one each of all these,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Well,
But
thanks for doing that.
but I'll talk about it a bit on Friday night.
Okay.
You were the first to see him, actually, besides Jan Scott saw him and Jan saw him, but
Nice.
they're hot off the press. Just got him last Friday. Picked him up last Friday.
Cool. Well, should we get started on the regular
Yeah.
meeting? So I'm going to be taking over the astrophotography chair position for the club for Lou's role, and so I want to welcome everyone to the meeting. John is still going to continue to be helping out with the meeting and stuff like that, certainly till I get the logistics together. But even afterwards, it's always good to have, sort of a backup and things like that. One of us can't make it or something like that. So what I thought I'd do would be to just talk a little bit about the organization of the meeting, how the meetings run. We've always kept it a fairly loose type of meeting, and I want to keep it that way, but just add a slight bit of structure to it, which I think would make it run more efficiently. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully it won't. I'll share. Actually, maybe I'll do this. I'll share my screen too, and then I'll do this. It does move it over. So what do you guys see? Because
I see DVAA Photography Workshop, May
We
7th.
see the whole
Perfect.
PowerPoint
Yeah,
desktop.
yeah,
Oh,
perfect.
PowerPoint though, yeah.
So yeah, so if I do that, then it doesn't work. Okay. It's
Gary,
fine.
real quick.
I'm just gonna leave it like this. You guys can see that?
On that page, there's monitor. You can change the monitor. Like right on the top ribbon, it says primary monitor.
Yeah,
In
unfortunately,
PowerPoint, I think you can change the monitor.
Yeah, there's only a couple slides. I'll just leave it because what's happening, Scott, is that my primary monitor is my left monitor where the camera is, and my secondary the monitor 2 is here. And if I share one, it's fine. If I go to PowerPoint, it's throwing it to screen 1, which is not shared. So the other thing I can do would be to share screen 1, which is usually what I do. And then let's see if I do this.
And now we see your desktop. Okay, we got it.
Now you should see the whole thing.
We do.
Yeah,
Right.
And then I got to move the Zoom stuff out of the way. Okay, so now that's good. So you still see that?
Yep.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay. So what I thought I would do would be to have yeah, now it's not advancing. So let's do it from here. So what I thought I would do would be to have, this goes back to an email thread from a couple of years ago that Tom, Lou, myself, and a few others were involved with, to have a sort of a little bit of structure to the meeting. So I think first and foremost is that if there are any new attendees, that we would have them introduce themselves, talk about a little bit about their background, a little bit about their level of experience, and then what equipment they might be using or that they're planning on using if they're still kind of like scoping things out. No pun intended. And then after that, have a Q&A session. And Q&A can be things like equipment questions, processing questions, even miscellaneous questions. Like where do people go to image? Where's a good place? What kind of resources? Before the meeting started today, earlier on, Rich was asking about field of view with a certain lens and a certain camera. And John shared a link to the Astronomy Tools website, which showed both visually what you can expect to see with an eyepiece and a telescope, or if you were imaging, what you can expect to see with a telescope and a lens. I mean, a camera and a lens, or a camera and a telescope, and so forth and so on. And then I was a little bit torn between whether to do a show and tell next, meaning like new, recently processed images, new equipment or techniques, things like that, or kind of if we had a short presentation topic, to do that next. I'm kind of thinking that the show and tell might be best next, and then we do a little, if we have a short presentation. And a presentation could be something as simple as you know, a 15-minute, 10 or 15-minute topic. It might be on, you know, like Brett was asking recently about image scale, things like that. So if anyone has any feel for that, what the downside of doing the presentation last is that you could start to run out of time. But if we keep track of that, we can say, hey, look, we still need a half an hour. It's 9 o'clock. Are people willing to hang around for this? And then do the topic. If it was something, a meeting where, say, we had a large presentation, like for instance, when Agapios would join us and talk about planetary image capture, things like that, then this other stuff up here generally wouldn't really happen. You know, that he's kind of a guest speaker, and he would get most of the session if need be. There have been times like where I've done a session or someone else has done a presentation where it's, you know, a 45-minute, hour-long thing, and then we would still do the other you know, the other parts of the meeting. This way, people can show what they've been working on and get questions answered, things like that. So does this approach seem okay for everyone?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
looks good.
yep, looks
Sure.
good.
Yep.
Okay. So as far as presentation topics, one of the things I mentioned Brett had brought up was calculating image scale, guidelines for matching up your imaging equipment, you know, so that you get you're not too far undersampled, too far oversampled, things like that. And in a lot of cases it doesn't matter, but you know, for really wide field stuff, you're going to be severely undersampled most of the time, and that's fine. Something like that image I showed last week, how to do the star trails. And I'm just kind of, you know, grasping at straws here to just get the thought process going in terms of what would people like to see. So the whole point of this slide and the next one, which just has a bunch of blanks, is what would people like to see? So, you know, another example, like something I'd like to see would be a lot of times when we've talked about planetary imaging, we spend, I would say, you know, the bulk of the time on the capture of it. And Agapios has certainly done that, where it's mostly capture things to get the data. And then we, at least from my perspective, haven't spent a lot of time on the actual processing. And image processing has, planetary image processing has unique tricks and things like that, just like deep sky has its unique tricks and stuff that's more specific to that content that you're imaging. So something like that, from my perspective, would be a really good thing to sort of do a little deeper dive onto the planetary imaging, on the processing of planetary imaging, what tools to use, things like that. Another possible topic of interest could be just a new processing tool, like, you know, Russell Croman came out with this version 3 of Blur Exterminator. Something like that would be, or could be, a topic of interest. John was mentioning about like Grasper, you know, in terms of getting rid of gradients and things like that. What tools are available for that? What's free? What's tied to, say, PixInsight? What might be used in Cyril? You know, whatever people are using. And I'd also like to encourage everyone in the group to participate in this, because we all know different things, and sharing some new tip or something that we learned, or some new trick, I think has value to the wider audience. So on this slide, there's 2 blank spaces. On this slide, there's a lot of blank spaces. There's 6 of them. So if people have some ideas, we can kind of brainstorm now, and I can fill them in, or think about it, and then we can fire some emails around, or just send me and John an email, and we'll coordinate that. As a background, I did sit in on a couple times, not in the last few months. There's another group that Lou had turned us on to that does, I forget the guy's name now. He had joined ours one time, but it's a local club, another club that has an astrophotography group, and they have a more rigid structure where he asks people if they're going to share images to send them to him, and he'll put them in a slide deck and then be prepared to talk about it, stuff like that, and have, bullet points in terms of all the acquisition details, things like that. I personally feel that I don't want to go that far. I'd like to keep it a little more open and a little looser, so that there isn't this upfront, like a bunch of upfront work that needs to be done on both the people who want to share their images and on the people coordinating the meeting, like myself and John, or whoever else might, be involved. And that it would be still relatively efficient to just do it during the meeting, bring up stuff if it's like Steve, if you have new images, or Tom, or, Wayne, or whoever has new images, to just show them. So that's about it. So if that structure seems fine,
Yeah, it looks good.
then we'll proceed along those lines. So I don't recognize any new members to the group. So no one's, if anyone's new, raise your hand. But I think I recognize everyone on the screen right now.
Yeah. No new, just old, with the emphasis on old,
Just
right?
old, just a bunch of old members. So as far as oh, here maybe there's one.
That actually is bad. The fact that we're all a bunch of old guys. That's not good. We all die, and then the end of the club.
Hopefully not.
Well, where are the young? Where are the young guys?
But you know what they say, when you wake up in the morning and there ain't 6 feet of dirt in your face, it's a good day.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I say that I never woke up to a day that I didn't like.
Well, as I'm getting older, my camping getting tougher. I went to Cherry Springs and camped by myself, and I thought, man, I don't think I want to do this anymore. It's no. Yeah.
Yeah, it does get tougher. Yeah. Still fun though.
Yeah, actually, I was slightly disappointed with the guy. I thought it would be like so dark I couldn't see my hand.
Somebody's got music playing, or
Yeah, somebody is
what's that from?
jumping all over us.
Yeah, it's surprising in a dark sky sight how your eyes really do adjust, and a lot of times you can walk around without any red light, flashlight, or anything like that. The Milky Way, if it's a clear night, the Milky Way shines pretty good. You can see fairly well when you're dark adapted under the Milky Way light.
Well, it was at 2:30 in the morning. I could not stand up that late. I was told that at 2:30 in the morning, we had some accident. Somebody fell, this woman hurt herself. She fell on her head. So Janet took her to hospital. On the way back, she was around 2:30. She said, you could see the Milky Way. So I guess during spring, Milky Way comes up much later. So I never saw it.
Yeah, it is. We were up at Cherry Springs. My wife Tracy and I went up. We couldn't make it to the Big Dipper Lodge due to some family commitments in her family. And but on Sunday, those finished on Sunday, and we were actually halfway there. We were up near Bloomsburg, PA. So we wound up just driving up. I had loaded up the van with one of my telescopes, and we drove up Sunday night. Actually, Bill McGeaney was there. He wound up going up too. We didn't know about it ahead of time. We just bumped into each other on the field. And you're right, Tom. The Milky Way came up. I set up a fixed tripod with a wide-angle lens and a DSLR, and I timed it. I started the exposures around 1 in the morning. I shot about every 20 seconds until about 4 in the morning. And at around, at that time, the Milky Way was a beautiful arch in kind of the east. So I just had the camera facing southeast, actually east southeast. So it was actually facing sort of the pine trees towards Route 44, with a little bit of tilt towards the south to get a little more of the core of the Milky Way.
What do you use to time the pictures? What hardware? I'm struggling with hardware now.
Just a fixed, just an intervalometer.
Oh.
So it was just set to take. I set it on bulb mode. I set the camera on bulb mode, and I took an 18-second exposure at like ISO 6400 every 20 seconds. So it allows about 2 seconds between images to download
Well,
to the camera.
my aim is to be in at house and a telescope outside and everything completely remote. So I'm working on that. Having a hook up to like an HP PC that's hanging on a scope, and then hook it up to Wi-Fi, and I can just remotely focus, take pictures, everything. After last winter's experience of freezing out, I said, this is not for me anymore. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's how a lot of people do it too. Now is to have it remoted. Like I have a telescope set up in my backyard pretty much all the time, and I have a shed close by, and I put wired Ethernet down to the shed years and years ago. Actually, it was originally a phone line, even though I never had a phone in the shed. So when I wired the house for Ethernet years after, I used the phone cable as the pull for the Ethernet cable, because there was no need for. I never had a phone down there. I mean, I'd use a cell phone if I'm using my cell phone if I'm in the yard. So that cable was always sitting there unused. And I figured that's a great pull, and that's a great fish for the Ethernet cable. So I ran that down to the shed. I bought a little $15 Ethernet switch, and I literally run an Ethernet cable out to the scope about 30 feet, something like that, 25 feet. And then I don't even have to worry about like where I am in the house, because when I was doing it through Wi-Fi, like through the ASI Air Wi-Fi, which isn't very strong, I had to be like, had my iPad or my phone, against the doors to the deck, so that it was sort of line of sight and nothing was in the way. And sometimes I'd have to walk out on the deck and stuff like that. Now that's all a thing of the past. I literally plug in the cable. You don't have to use station mode. You can still be it's wired Ethernet. So it's
I don't know
as fast as it can go.
I think about ZWSI. I'm just going to put an HP PC, pretty powerful, hanging on the scope, and then everything going into it, and then put it on my house Wi-Fi network, and I can just remotely control it. So
yeah, it's a way to go. It's a good way to go.
The other thing I was looking, I posted on the group, see if anybody's playing around with the C-Star. One of these days, I want to buy one. But I came across this software that allows you to remotely control it over Wi-Fi from anywhere in the world. And I've thought, my daughter lives in the middle of nowhere, and she has internet. Maybe I can just put one over there and just whenever I feel like it, I just access it and put a plan in there, and it's always
Tom,
clear
what
up there.
software? Tom,
So
what
it's
software?
It's called C-Star ALP. There is a version for Mac and Linux and Windows.
ALP. C-Star ALP.
Yeah, I think if you look at the group, I posted a question to see if anybody's looking to that.
Okay.
And nobody responded yet. Instead of doing it off like iPad or programming and it being there, you could just set it up someplace, and I could just call my daughter, hey, just uncover the thing.
Yeah.
And just log into it and take images. Anyway, my field study was computer control, remote everything. So I aim to that, everything remotely controlled. My house is all remote controlled, and so telescope is next. I bought this on-step system that can be accessed through Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, wired, anything you want. So my computer will plug into that, and that's my vision. So I'm not even taking pictures until I can get it working. Anyway, there's nothing to take. There's no planets out to take pictures anyway. It's all down now.
Yeah, planets are more, at least I found it more difficult to do remotely, just because especially if you're using one of those atmospheric dispersion corrector things, because about every 20 minutes or so you need to go out and kind of tweak it. So when I'm doing planetary, I know from myself, I kind of run out every 15-20 minutes, and then that's assuming everything's tracking well, and I'm using the scope and sort of the auto guiding features of the like fire capture or something like that to try to keep the planet in the reduced field of view. Because in order to get the frame rate up, you got to really bring your field of view, your region of interest as small as possible to get the frame rate up. And then if your polar alignments, I mean, even if it's really good, that planet's going to walk in that field. I don't know if Tom, if you have.
Oh yeah, and I can.
Yeah, I
I can
tried it.
attest that you have to go out. I mean, when I'm doing planets, I mean, I'm doing it from my sun porch, but I go outside every 20 minutes anyway. I keep going back out, and
Well, maybe that
just
can be
tweaking
automated
the
too.
ADC and yeah.
Yeah, I tried that automated feature in the fire capture, and I don't know, somehow my scope was going backwards or something. I need to have tutorial how to do it, like see somebody. It looked like it was clicking the icon, the arrows, and like it was controlling, but it didn't lock in, so I gave up for now.
Well, that could be one of the topics for the special interest topics.
Yeah, how do you set that up and make sure that the scope is moving in the right direction, that it's actually tracking? Though I guess if you're nearby, I don't think it's necessary. The scope tracks so well that if you occasionally have to, do a correction with a hand controller, I don't think it's such a big deal. But it would be nice to know how to actually use that feature.
Yeah, if it is something as simple as going backwards, I assume there's a little control panel. If you right click on the icon on that guiding icon, there's a little control panel. You can change the direction.
Yeah, somehow I messed with that, and I don't know. I was doing something wrong because it acted like it wanted to control, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something we can talk one day. Somebody can show me how to do that. But in the meantime, I just scan the YouTube, But invariably, somebody just jumps right into it, and maybe I'm in trouble with just the very beginning, and so you have to find just the right tube for dummies.
Yeah, I think part of it, I had an easier time when I did it with my old Los Mandy mounts that had just a very simple guide port to them. I've gotten confused or fooled when I've tried to do it with my Ioptron mount. It should be the same because I'm literally using a guide port on it. It shouldn't be any different, but I think it's just the response, maybe the response of the mount is different. So some of the settings, like the pulse duration has to change, things like that.
Yeah, that may be because I was using just the camera for guiding. I didn't use the guiding port. But I think if there's some kind of a backlash in the mount, it wouldn't make a difference what you use for guiding, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, well, more to try,
Yeah, exactly. It is, I did get it to work, even though, well, with the Los Mandy, but with the Ioptron, I tend to just make sure my polar alignment's really good. I use the camera to actually, do the polar alignment, and I make sure that's typically less than, uh, less than an arc second.
That might be a good topic. Yeah? I'm just aligning to the polar scope. I don't know. That seemed like it should work just as well, right?
In general, the topics like we're talking about now could be, the general topic to add to your list, Gary, equipment setup and modification. Because, that's always interesting to see how people have worked out, any of their setups and things like that. I know, like, one thing I could do if people were interested on this, my C14, they used to make mirror locks for it to help with the mirror flop. And I couldn't find them anywhere to buy. So my buddy can do some machining. So together between the two of us, I was able to make some custom mirror locks for my C14. So, I could kind of show that, but, I know I always have questions on how people have set up this or that to give me ideas on, what to do with my equipment.
Yeah.
So good general topic, because that's what we're discussing right now.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And along those same lines, Sandy, like the other night when I was helping Tom out at Plymouth White Marsh for one of their public outreach things, I tried a little different setup. I showed you guys a couple months ago that I took 100mm camera lens and I stuck it on the body of that ASI 533 MC that I had. And I thought, oh, let me try that with my 100 to 400mm zoom lens, because in a public setting, I'm not exactly sure what we're going to shoot. It depends. It was a partly cloudy night. It sort of depends on where some sucker holes are, things like that, what the target is. So I decided to do this about an hour before I was going to leave to go to the star party. And of course, oh, wait a minute, I don't have like a clamp to clamp, because with that lens, I sort of mount the lens on the tripod, not the camera body, and let this big hunker lens hang off. And I thought, oh, I don't have a clamp for that. So I just took a 1/4-20 socket head cap screw, and I just tightened the hell out of it, like, in an old bracket that I had. So that thing was not going to move. A single screw, which is what you never do, but it was tight enough and it lasted the whole night. Everything was fine. Well, 2 days later, I'm down in the basement thinking, no, I gotta make that for real. So, I took an old dovetail, an old Los Mandy D style dovetail that I made years ago for one of my scopes, and I had an extra one of those little Arca mounts, those little clamps that camera lenses use and different camera accessories use. So I put a little spacer, drilled some holes, tapped, and stuck a little spacer, and that, I mean, it's sitting next to me now, and that'll be the rig. And then I thought, well, now I'm doing this, I might as well mount the ASI Air on the top of it and everything, so I don't have any cables going down to the tripod. The only thing going up to it is the power connector feeding it. So something like that maybe would be, if people are looking for ways to consolidate and make a really kind of efficient grab and go setup for doing something like that. And this would be for, EAA things, basically, even if it doesn't have a guide scope, you're doing short subs. If it's reasonably polar aligned, you're gonna be fine.
One of the things I tried, and I was looking for a dark sky when I went to Cherry Springs, is to take a picture with my cell phone. It has this feature that if it detects that it's steady and it's dark, it turns on astrophotography mode. And in over 5 minutes, it takes pictures. I don't know how often and how long, but then when since it sees the sky is moved, it goes back and stacks them up again to produce the final image. So I was going to help. I helped it by putting it on a tripod and then putting it on my equatorial platform so that it would rotate properly and produce some nice images. I wish I had stayed up longer for the Milky Way. I think that would have been a really nice shot. Something so simple, you can use a cell phone. Everybody has cell phone, just get people hooked.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And it stacks it too, huh, Tom?
Yeah,
Does it stacking? Wow, that's pretty cool.
yeah. I mean, I figured if I help it by just rotating it at the right speed, it should do even better. Too bad
Yeah.
there was no option like, okay, now make it for an hour.
What did the was it a specific app that was doing that, or
No, it was
is it
just a
just built
Google
into the phone?
Pixel. I think Apple does the same. You have it steady, like on a tripod, and it detects it's dark enough. All of a sudden this menu appears like astrophotography or something like that. You click it, and you can see it starts counting from 4 minutes or 5 minutes, and it's taking images at certain intervals. And there's over 5 minutes, you got some movement. I guess especially if you were to zoom in. Then it goes back, and then I guess there's like a plate solving thing, and it stacks them all up and lines them up, and so all the stars are dots. Pretty cool. And you get that automatically. There's no app for that. It's just part of the Google Pixel.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So
Yeah, it sounds like it's kind of like with there's a freeware app called Sequator or a Sequitor that lines up if you use fixed tripod. It's Andrew had talked about it
Yeah.
a couple months, like a handful of months ago when he had given that presentation. So I guess it has something like that built in where it's doing star line between images.
It's not like you can turn it on. Yeah, it has to be dark. It has to be steady. So I think you can just put it on your table, a dark room or wherever, and just see if it comes up.
Was there anything else in the image, Tom, like trees or anything like that, or is it just
Yeah, I didn't
sky?
see. I'm not. I guess the trees would be steady, right? It would smudge them, right? Somehow.
Would smudge them? Yeah. If it's that's all I'm curious about. If it was
Yeah.
all stars, it's just
Yeah,
stacked of stars. But if it had trees, I wonder.
I
if
think
it
you can
would-
zoom it a little bit so you can.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wish I had stayed long enough, to see the Milky Way. I think it
Yeah.
would have probably worked fine.
What Sequator does, Tom, is you can draw an outline on the bottom. If you have a tree line, you can take your mouse or whatever and draw an outline, and it uses that as the foreground.
Oh, I see.
So there'll be a little transition period where it's a little fuzzy, but it'll keep the trees sharp and it'll keep the stars sharp, except for this little sort of transition area. And the longer you go, the bigger that transition area gets when it's trying to line
Next
up.
thing one might try is just attach it to the eyepiece and see what happens. See how you would handle that.
No.
Like M42, just for just something big,
Yeah.
right?
That'd be curious, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I'm not doing this at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry, man.
Oh, that's Sequator, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, this software for C-Star might be interesting. I haven't looked at the prices of the C-Star to see if that changed because of tariffs.
I looked the other day. It didn't change yet, surprisingly.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw some sites had the S50 at 549 from 499. But then I saw another site that still had it at the 499 price.
No, but it must be like an old stock or something. They're hoping that
Yeah,
this.
some companies have decided to kind of
Write it out.
yeah, they kind of iron it out. So if they get real expensive ones, they'll take the cheap ones, they'll do price averaging, and so the tariff hit isn't as hard as it would be if it
Yes.
was all new stock, which would be
Yeah.
like $1,000 for a C Star.
Like Gina has the S50 at 549 and the S30
Yeah,
at
that's what I
399.
saw. Yeah, I thought they
Yeah.
had Gene Astor had moved bumped it up. Yeah,
Yeah.
the S30 went up. The
But
S30
they,
went
they
up
bumped it up
fairly
back in
far.
January. So it hasn't changed recently. It just
Right
went
away.
for their
Yeah,
very
I
first
think
round.
it was just being talked about. They started once they started, coming up with some rough numbers. I think they started just jacking it. But
Hopefully there'll be some kind of agreement soon, and that China can make uh, sneakers and things like that, but the rest of the stuff, I don't know. There's got to be some way. We can't live without them, and they can't live without us. And we're the like 50% of the economy.
yeah,
So,
man, I was looking at where like the different things are made for astronomy stuff, and like the QHY is all China, all ZWO, of course, is China. The sensors and all the cameras are from Japan, all Sony's. And so, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that, and a small company like ZWO, I'm concerned about because it isn't that huge of a company. And probably the US is one of their major buyers. And if that kind of dries up for a while, I don't know if they can hang in there, how long they can hang in there. It would be a shame to lose them. Um,
There'll be some negotiation.
yeah, so hopefully they'll work that out. But it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, generally trade wars tend to get uglier before they get better. But hopefully calmer minds prevail and people realize that everybody needs everybody else to
Yeah.
kind of stay alive.
I mean, there's some truth to it. I remember I was in Singapore one time and talking to some friend of mine who lives there. He says, if you want to buy an American car, it's 100% tariff. So why is there 100% tariff? Seems unfair. So I don't know. I mean, it's all country by country. So maybe there can be some reasonable people get together and negotiate.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you cannot. I lived in a communist block, and so we had our own manufacturing. I don't know. Like Bulgaria made refrigerators, and there was only one model of refrigerators, and Slovakia made chairs and tents, and so there was no choice of anything. You want a refrigerator? Well, your choice was white or white and or white, and you had to know somebody who can actually allow you to buy one, and so it was just a big mess. So, and so this was just what this Warsaw Pact, like I forget what they call it. Everybody got together. Okay, you make this, you make this, and we ignore the West. Didn't fly very long. Nobody was happy.
hey, Tom, I was looking at that C Star ALP that you sent.
Yeah.
Just so you know, like looking at it, they're connecting to the C Star, but the desktop app doesn't use the existing C Star app. So they're writing all the unique functions and all that. So just be mindful that ZWO is not involved in any of the interface or any of that. So as this ALP is developed, it may be missing features, they may add features in this, but it's not like it's a desktop app that connects to the existing app to control it.
Yeah.
So just maybe a learning curve.
No, I saw that. It's very comprehensive. Apparently, there is some kind of open standard. What is it called? The Open Observatory or something that ZW uses. So that's why they were able to make.
Okay.
I guess there are some APIs, so some smart people can come up with software. Anyway, I haven't tried it, but I saw that it's completely independent of ZW. But what do you want? I mean, take pictures, stack them. I don't know. The remote thing was attractive to me.
I think it's very cool if it plays well with it. That's ideal. I would love to have something like that for the ASI Air, right? For doing running it from a PC or something like that, rather than just being tied to the iPad.
yeah, well, I guess once you're ZWO ecospace, you're stuck. So. But that's what I was going to use, just a general purpose PC. There's a lot of software that you can run on it, you know, all the fire capture or whatever. And it's all ASCOM compatible. So the on-step control that I have, it talks to ASCOM, and you can have remote focusers and, you know, rotator, and so it's all kind of built from open source software.
Yeah.
I like that. There was some
Yep.
clever people developing software.
So, I mean, Nina's done a great job, right, in terms of that world.
Yeah, I haven't tried it, but I read some reviews. I mean, it's a different animal to do astrophotography. You know, it's deep sky stuff. I haven't even thought about it.
I love it. I love Nina. But yeah, it's another learning curve.
Yeah.
There's so many in this hobby.
So I thought, okay, maybe good enough. C-Star will be good enough for me.
Yeah, and it's also tied to the age thing too, because like I've been working with Alan Purdy. I was telling John earlier before the meeting started that when he bought his 15-inch Obsession, when he downsized his large scope for the 15, he still, you know, you start to have issues with your eyes, things like that. Part of that purchase was an old Malincam video camera. So he reached out and he put an email out to the, you know, the e-groups thing saying, hey, does anyone have familiarity with these Malincams? I'd like to try to get this working, you know, and I have this rat's nest of cables. I'm not sure what goes where. And I didn't have really much experience with a Malincam. I did it when I worked with one when we did that public outreach when COVID hit and we couldn't do the star parties. Wayne and Mike Tucker, myself, put together a little setup where we were doing video projection of objects, and Wayne and I would switch back and forth between like a wide field and then a long focal length scope. And I borrowed a Malincam from one of our club members. So no one replied. So I replied and said, hey, I don't have much experience, but I'm certainly more than willing to help you try to get it fired up and, you know, do what I can. And he's run it a few times and you know, it's a real narrow field of view and stuff like that. But the whole point is that he's doing it because he's chasing extremely faint galaxies with the 15-inch scope. With his 22, it was a lot easier to see him. With the 15, it's not, especially as your eyes get older. So he's going to use the Malincam as kind of an eye enhancer so that if there's something that he needs to really look at, he can actually see a better image of it in addition to the visual observing.
Is that the camera that's like only one piece for $1,700? Is that what you're talking about?
No, this was these are a couple $100. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. I mean, it's basically what I think he did is to take surveillance cameras. I think originally he was using video surveillance cameras and then modifying them, you know, with an 1.25 inch nose piece and things like that. You know, putting a little focal reducer, like a 0.5x focal reducer on and stuff like that. And then he had the software that was in the firmware that was in the camera. I think he probably enhanced because he added features that would be useful for looking at really faint objects, much fainter than what you would typically use a security camera for. But those security cameras were used for like there's an organization called IOTA, which is the International Occultation Timing Association. So it's a group of us. There's been a number of club members that have been involved with it for 30 years. That time when an asteroid goes in front of a star, there's these occultations that occur, and you time them from different vantage points around the Earth. And then you can use through parallax, you can calculate, you can determine the shape of the asteroid. So a number of these asteroid objects have been characterized in terms of their orbits, in terms of their shapes and things, whether they're spinning, flipping, by a bunch of amateurs that are doing this. And it's been something that's few and far between. In our neck of the woods, in this part of the country, you maybe get 2 a year. I might get 2 emails a year from David Dorham, who's the guy who coordinates this activity to time these things. And the things we've always used have been video cameras.
Well, when you talk about this hardware, it's reminding me that, okay, I have a problem. Maybe you guys can help me out. I bought a mount from Robert Meary, and I took it out to Cherry Spring, and I'm moving it around, and the thing gets stuck. Like it won't slew in one direction unless you move it past it by hand. So I took it all apart, but I cannot figure out how to take it apart to look at the bearings. I think I need to. I don't have any tools, and it's like I'm looking at this piece of metal. It's like, why the heck you take it apart? Because I can turn it by hand, and at certain places it gets stuck. So with the clutch off, and I mean, I kind of lubricated it, oil everywhere, but I don't know what's wrong with it inside. Like I would almost need a machine shop. They can take it with some special tools to take it apart and then find the bearing and replace it. Like I'm afraid to bang at it because it still kind of works. So then I will be completely out of commission.
Yeah.
I was like, where do I go?
What brand mount is it? What type of mount is it?
It's a Meade LXD75. It's I think it's like when I look at different kind of setups, it's like Brescher or ECOS or something. They always look the same visually. So there has to be some company that made one and they all copied or something. So probably internally they're the same, the slight differences, maybe. But I've seen them, but I have not found a video where it says this is how you take it apart.
Yeah.
I got close to one guy says, okay, let's change the bearing, but he completely skipped the part how you take it apart. Like,
Oh.
Apparently you can buy new bearings and you can put them in, but I cannot figure out how to take it apart.
They
But
sell
you
a
have to watch
Hypertune
out.
kit.
Sorry?
They sell a Hypertune kit. I put a link in. I don't know what that means. But
Hypertune? I need muscles to unscrew these things.
the
I can
clients,
see
they give you the tools you need, but I don't know.
Alright.
I don't know if shoot, someone in the club was messing with one of these recently. Doug Lentz, maybe. Anyway,
Yeah, Doug was fooling with something. I think his was, I don't know if his was a Meade or not, though. It might have
That's
been a
true.
Celestra. I don't know.
All right.
I have directions on a Meade LX90 mount. That's the out azimuth mount. Someone named Jan put together a fantastic set of directions with photos and what you do each step of the way on how to just take it apart. I've done that with my telescope and replaced bearings. But I don't know about your telescope, how similar that would be. Mine's the out azimuth mount.
now this one is equatorial. And
Got to be careful because sometimes those bearings are press fit in. And it's
I don't.
This says that they're Teflon bearings.
Are they? I
They're
don't know, but
the link that John sent, this hypertuning kit for the LXD 75, they talk about what it includes, and the first line item is a complete set of PTFE bearings.
let me look at them.
Yeah,
So
look
they
at
might be Teflon bearings.
Well, why would it be like it's stuck? Like if there's a certain point where what's really weird, a certain point it gets catches, and then I just rotate it by hand freely. Well, it just goes perfectly smooth. And I walk away from it, and I come back, and all of a sudden it gets stuck at a certain point. And the motors that I have that drive it, built, I think the stepper motors are not strong enough to get past it. So,
is it belt drive or is it worm gear driven?
well, it's bell driven, but there is a worm involved, but it's driving the worm.
So the worm, I mean, one thing with the Los Mandes is they're like just sort of a bare bones mount. And the tolerances are fairly tight on worm drive type systems. So I was amazed how little. I mean, I had some grease just get a little old, just got a little bit, not so much cakey, but just thick. And that was enough to totally make the mount misbehave. It would get stuck, it wouldn't track well. And then I had to take it apart, and then I used a degreaser, take out all the old grease, and then I used just fresh wide temperature range grease, and it worked perfectly well. So it's surprising how, at least from my experience, surprising how little can go wrong to make a mount misbehave.
My case is I can take the worm completely away. Let me share a picture if I can. Can I share the screen somehow?
Yeah, there should be a green up arrow in the bottom middle.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm sharing this picture of my mount.
There it is.
Allow something participant. Can you see something?
Yep.
You see the mount?
Yep.
So here is the part that I've added. These motors, they drive a belt, but there's a worm and like a gear. So I took that, which is right here. I took that hole off so I could adjust the backlash. So there's nothing. The worm is not even in a play. It's just this RA axis rotating. The declination is fine, perfectly smooth, but the RA axis, you take this part off and everything off. So all you have is this part right here, and I just turn it by hand with the clutch off, and it just catches. So I take it apart, and I see there are some threads, and you take this cap off, and there's the polar scope, and somehow that needs to be removed, and it just seemed like from that it has to be attacked from that end. But I think you need to take it to a machine shop or something.
Now, I just found a YouTube video that had the thing on the LXD75, and the guy shows how it taken apart.
Well, send me the link. Maybe it's the same one that I saw, but the critical step of how to remove it, or maybe just in my case, it just doesn't come apart.
Yeah,
he just
you
pulls
might
it out.
even be able to reach out to this the link that John sent, this Deep Space Products with this Hypertune kit.
I'll take a look at it.
You might be able to reach out to them because I'm assuming they give instructions with that. Because I mean it says a step-by-step video on,
Okay,
on how
I'll
to do
take
it.
a look. Maybe it's not so bad. But I think I need some kind of tool that like it grabs it, or I don't know. Anyway, it's just a little frustrating that I have this fancy controller. You can see it right here. This is the on-step controller, and these wires go to the RA and declination motors, and there's a separate hand controller, and all connected to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and I can run it from Sky Safari Pro or Stellarium or whatever.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get that running. That sounds like it'd be a good setup.
Yeah, I think seems to be really smooth, except that one spot.
Yeah,
I was even thinking about somehow. No, I guess you can't switch them. Anyway, no, I don't know.
I mean it's possible if it is PTFE bearings, like this one website saying, there could have been a little burr or something. The other thing is if some contamination got in, if some dust got in. I had done some work years ago with this a project for work where I used PTFE as the bearing for like a long rod. It's actually really common in like Crayford focusers. They'll use a Teflon bearing that a polished steel rod sits in. If the tiniest little bit of dust or something like that gets in that bearing can cause it to misbehave.
So I'm
But
looking
it
at the
might just be
website.
cleaning, or if it got scored, if there's any score marks in it, then you might need to replace it, which it looks like this kit, includes.
Well, is this the page we're talking about?
That's the
No,
page
it's
I
actually
sent.
the link before. That's
Yeah,
what,
but
that's
This one
one that
shows
is
how to
for,
take it apart.
yeah,
yeah,
I sent a link to that says. I mean, I started reading some of the directions. I don't know if it fully tells you how to disassemble, but they're at least saying how to
This
maintain it. So I
particular
thought it
site
might
I've
help.
seen, it doesn't, but so which one is it?
yeah, look, go up one more link. It's called deepspaceproducts.com, Hypertune, your do-it-yourself. That's it.
Oh,
And if you scroll down, there's a list of what it includes.
yeah, this is exactly my scope. It has the motors which I replaced. Okay, kit.
So it says complete PTFE bearing set,
Oh,
I
step
found
by step
another
video.
page. Those PTFE bearings could be an upgrade. That supposedly there's a picture in the other link I sent. They're 6811Z. They look metal. So it's
Okay, so
possible.
maybe it is. Yeah, it's
It's probably an
possible.
upgrade.
so
Yeah,
where
it
is
could
it? So where is the instructions how to actually take it apart?
You got to pay them for that.
175 bucks to get for the instructions or for the kit?
That's for the whole kit, for
Yeah.
all the degreaser, the new grease, the replacement bearings,
Oh,
all
well,
that stuff.
might be worth it. Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
But yeah, also there's another link. There's two more links in there that might have information if you didn't want to pay for it. So
Well, I mean, if it works,
I agree. I agree.
I invested a little bit of money already, so might as well go see
Right.
make it
Yeah,
useful. Because I mean, there's nothing wrong with the mount. I mean, it just rotates, So just as long as it's smooth, it's really nice. And
Yeah.
my scope is only 8 inch, so you can handle it no problem. So
Yeah.
might be worth investing in.
yeah, it could be. The bearings can be. On my Los Mandy, I had to replace the bearings one time, and I actually did it. I shouldn't say I had to replace them. I did it intentionally because I wanted to increase the load capacity. I had an old Los Mandy mount, and the bearing channel, the bore that the needle bearings went in was like twice as deep as the size of the needle bearings. And that mount had a 60 pound payload. And by doubling up the bearings, you could literally just buy the same exact bearing and then just press fit it in. You could go up to like a 90 pound payload rating for the same mount. And I bought the bearings and then did that. And I was thinking, when I was looking at it, I was thinking, if you had to get those other bearings out, you really would need it's sort of a bearing pull or something specific for that, because they were buried in there deep. They were press fit, and they were like, if you just took a piece of wood and kind of tapped around the perimeter from the opposite side, they didn't move. You would have to whack the heck out of it.
Yeah, this looks like a good site. Looks like this is what I need to do, is get to this point somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So do not attempt to remove the bearings with a screwdriver and hammer.
That's right.
That's exactly what you're saying.
okay, I'll bookmark it and
Yeah.
see if I can.
Yeah, let us know how it goes. Take pictures too. It could be a presentation. I'm fishing. I'm looking for stuff.
Yeah, I don't think. Hopefully, doesn't look like this, but I'm thinking it could be like you were saying, that this bearing has some little piece that kind of broke off and it's traveling around, and it just causes a
You snagged.
snag.
Yeah, possibly.
Possibly. I mean, it can't be that complicated, right? I mean, just a bearing. Anyway, good. You got me some ideas on.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions or any topics that they want to discuss before we go to looking at images and things like that, or if anyone's done any new work? Anything burning?
Except for my hemorrhoids.
I'm not talking about anything personal, nothing like that. Does anyone take any images?
I got a couple.
Okay, I love your sun image stuff. That prominence. Oh, I meant to ask you too. Did you get any of the of that enormous sunspot group?
I did not yet because it's you could have gotten it. It was kind of playing hide and seek, you know. It's still there, but I've not gotten it. I've been really kind of busy in the daytime, so it's been hard to
Been tough.
pull away some time there. But I'm anxious to get. I
Tracy
want
and
to
I
get it
took
to when it
out.
goes towards the edge. It might be good.
Yeah, yeah. We took out. I grabbed my little 72 millimeter refractor with the white, with the white light that Botter solar film on it. And I tell you, just that we must have spent 20 minutes just like, oh my God, look at that thing. Because I must have caught it when the scene was fairly decent. It was actually later in the afternoon, which surprised me because usually
That
it's
is surprising,
really good in the morning. But it must have just been a good window because it was really good scene. I was able to put a 5 millimeter eyepiece in it and,
Ah.
and really get a nice view of it. And it was just spectacular. It was beautiful.
Ah,
So I'm counting on you, Tom.
yeah, it's still there. I got
Rest
a
of the
couple of
club's
days.
counting on you.
I'm running out of time. I only have a couple of days, I think, before it becomes an issue. And they're
Yeah,
always kind of
everyone
fun to
goes
shoot
by.
when they go towards the limit. They're kind of fun sometimes because you get kind of that interesting effect, as it's half rotated around. It's kind of cool. But
So what do you have?
I got a couple. I'll see what I got here. You guys see that?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's 63. I got the M63. I got the sunflower the other night. Um, this is what there's no filters at all. This is just straight planetary camera, 174 mm, plugged into the 8-inch f4, and this is, I think it's about. Let me see if I have it. It is for 1 hour and 49 minutes, which for me is
Yeah.
a very long time.
Wow.
And that is
Like an
they're
eternity.
10-second subs, of course. Wouldn't have it any other way. So there's that, and then let's see if I can do this. Oh, I don't want to do that. I thought I could.
What telescope was that, Tom?
That's my 8-inch f4. Just with the planetary camera. This is they're kind of all in a row here. I got 63, 64, 65, 66 kind of a thing. Here's 64. This is about an hour, I think. See what it says. Yeah, it's just a couple seconds shy of an hour. I like this because of these darker lobes in here, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
I was glad to get those.
That's the Black Eye Nebula?
Yes, the black eye, yeah.
Galaxy, I meant to say.
Yeah, Black Eye Galaxy.
Yeah, 64. Yeah,
64, yeah. It's kind of up pretty high up in the sky. It's like plus 20 deck, I think. Here's 64 and 65.
Oh, nice.
So what kind of camera is this, Tom? Oh,
These are all 174 mm. It's a small chip planetary 2 megapixel planetary cameras. Well, this is my preferred camera for the sun and moon.
Are these guys interacting? Because there's like some
There
stuff
is.
coming
I
off
think
there.
they must be because
Yeah.
I was surprised at all this stuff going
Right,
on.
and that shape is kind of wonky. It looks kind of squished.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So
So how was this taken? You just, what kind of software, hardware was involved?
this was Sharp Cap, just doing live stacking with Sharp Cap.
No?
It's an 8-inch f4 reflector with this small black and white planetary camera, not cooled or anything. And
Right.
there's no filters involved. I just stuck it in an 8-inch f4 and shot for this one is, take a look here. This one is 5,430 seconds. So that's about an hour and probably about 90 minutes.
So it's live stacking and no post-processing, just,
Oh no, it's live stacked. Then I post process. I bring it through all the steps that the pros do here, like John and Gary. I bring it through Grassbert and I bring it through Cyril, not PixInsight. I have Cyril, and then I'll bring it into Lightroom, and then in this case, and I ran it through John's Uber Smooth program. Not at 100%, not at that 1.0 setting at the end. This is about a 0.5 or 0.6.
Yeah, you blend it good because it looks good.
So
You don't
anyway,
have to have a necessarily a fancy camera. You can have one camera.
no, it's I mean, you get I mean, this is only a 2 megapixel camera, so I can't zoom in. I start zooming in, it starts to really, the pixels starts to get pixelated and stuff,
Yeah,
But
still it's cool.
but it's not bad for just the equipment I have around.
Hey,
So
it's great.
Zoom all the way in, Tom.
What? Go back and zoom in?
He
Yeah.
wants to pixel peep.
I'm curious what 2 megapixel looks like close up. I
That's-
mean, you got a whole lot of detail there.
And smooth it out.
For
right?
2 megapixel, that's unbelievable.
Tom,
So
what's your focal length on that?
It's 32 inches or 800 millimeters.
800 millimeters.
Yeah.
Close to what I shoot, yeah.
So was this guided, like, or you just
No, it tracks. I mean, I got tracking, but I don't have any
Okay.
guide camera or anything. That's why I shoot these 10-second subs. They're short and easy, and
you
I
can you can just program it to say take a number of shots at
oh, it just keeps going actually. With the live stacking, you set up your gain and your exposure, and you just say, start live stacking. And it'll just keep doing it forever until you stop it.
Do you have to recenter every once in a while?
Well, SharpCap, I don't have a guide camera, but SharpCap has a thing. If you don't have a guide camera, there's an option where it'll recenter if it drifts more than X number of pixels. So I set it for like 40 pixels. Drifts more than 40 pictures, it pauses, recenters, starts again.
That's great.
Same way with the dithering, because I have no guide camera. I just tell it how many pixels I want to move, and it says you want to move just the RA or just deck, and I say move both, and it just picks a random number and so it does the dithering. So I don't use any camera at all, but the
So is
SharpCap
this-
has that kind of built in.
is this the same kind of guiding you would do for Planet? So it just picks up this object and it centers it, or how does it do the
Oh no,
guiding?
with the planets, I'm shooting these videos, and the stacking software, if it does drift at all, because you're using really high magnification, really long focal lengths with the planets, or even like this, even the sun and stuff. Well, the sun not too much because the hydrogen alpha, it's a 500 millimeter scope with a 2x bar. You're still only about 1,000 millimeters. But when I'm doing like the planets, I'm
Yeah,
looking at
sorry,
about
it's a different subject.
172 inches times 25 millimeters. I mean, that's a huge number. It's thousands of millimeters. So it's over 3,000 millimeters, I think. So there, I'm taking these videos, and then you run it
Right.
through a stacking program,
Right.
auto stacker, and that besides it aligns the images so they're on top of one another, and then it
Right.
arranges them in the
Yeah.
order of sharpness.
But in this case, how does SharpCap knows that things have drifted? What does he use to detect that the image is moving?
I think it just looks at a set of stars. Usually, it
Yeah.
picks a number because you can look at and see with your. I always forget what this is. The full half wave something or other.
But with
Full
half
width,
max,
half max.
Yeah, max.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah, I was always have trouble with that for some reason.
But
Well,
it picks
with
number of
SharpCap
stars?
too. In fact, that's how I focus. I don't look at the star. I look at that and I just tweak the focus a little bit till the number, settles. I get it as small as I can, and it's as sharp as I'm going to get it for that
Right.
night.
It picks up certain number of stars based on that, and
Yeah, and it usually picks the brighter ones, and then it goes. It needs at least you say how many stars you want to make sure
Okay.
a minimum of stars to guide on. Minimum is like 15, I think, to get any kind of reasonable results.
So this
you
object,
have to-
when you pointed a telescope on it, you couldn't see it with your eye, could you?
I couldn't see these at all visually. But in this
You have
case,
to
that's
be-
another thing with SharpCap. It does. I downloaded a database. It's just a publicly available database. And this is why it's a lot easier than like the planets. Like Gary said, the planets, you're playing with the ADC every 20 minutes. I'm getting a lot of exercise while I'm doing planets. With this, I just uncover it and I say go to M64, say, or M65, and it goes there. It isn't it because I'm using a really small chip. It's not in the field of view when I first do it. And I just say
Yeah.
find it, and it finds it and centers it. It takes about anywhere from 12 to say 20 seconds, and it's right in dead center. And then I can see it. Yeah.
So Sharp Cap is the one that does the finding?
It does place
Yeah.
solving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plate
place
solving.
solving.
Yeah. So there's all
Oh,
that.
I
So I just stay inside and say go. So it does the dithering. It does the without a guide. It does the recentering without a guide. It does my plate solving. I use it for the planets too.
Yeah,
But it's
it's all news to me, but okay.
Yeah,
At least
it
I
does.
understand the
It's
concept.
kind of why I went that way because of that. Here's
Cool.
the Siamese twins.
Tom, back to Steve's question about the resolution. I just looked up that camera and put it into the image scale calculations for 800 millimeter focal length.
Yeah, 1.5 arc seconds per
Yeah,
pixel.
yeah. So you're at a nice, you're at a
I'm in a
good
sweet spot. Yeah, I know.
image
With that
scale.
camera, it's good. It's a
Yeah, it's a perfect.
Is it-
The fact that it has those big pixels.
yeah. The
helps you
pixel
out.
size is 5.8 microns on that camera, which is nice. It plays well with that focal length.
Yeah.
What application are you using to figure out the field of view and all that? What were you talking about?
Oh, the field of view. I just
No,
calculated that.
Gary was talking about something. He plugged
Oh.
in to something.
Yeah, I just calculated it on a spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet I put together years ago.
Oh,
After Tom's done, I can show you
Yeah.
what that's about. But it just does the the image scale calculations.
no, you
It's
should share it.
fairly straightforward.
You can share it through Google Sheets or something.
Yeah.
This one I noticed it's not as it needs to be dark in the background a little bit. This is a Siamese twins. This is what is this? This is about now. It's about 90 minutes also the other night.
are you using a botter coma corrector? Or?
Yeah, I'm using the botter.
Yeah, it's
Not
nice.
bad. It looks pretty
Yeah.
good at the edges, you
It's
know?
pretty good. That's what I'm thinking.
Did
Yeah,
you do
no,
any
it's-
flat? Did you do any flats on that? That's a
I
big
do no
dust donut.
there's no flats. I did do a dark. I did no flats or bias or anything.
Tom doesn't get dust.
Yeah.
Yeah, and chickens have lips.
Dust is for sloppy people.
What is Badder? What are you talking
Name
Name
of
of a
the
company,
brand.
BAADER.
What is
They
that?
make the solar filter film, which Gary was talking about a minute ago when he was looking at that sunspot. I use the same film when I put on the 6-inch to take sunspots. But they also make some eyepieces, I think, but they make this coma corrector. Because when I first started taking images, just doing EAA, I mean the coma with 8-inch f4, even with the small chip, was really noticeable, really noticeable. On a large chip, it would be unbelievable. I can't imagine. But
So
but this
you need
is
to have that?
so the coma corrector works fairly well. It gets it pretty smooth all the way around because it would be
Let's drop the
horrible.
link.
So wait, so I have a question. So when I look through my telescope, it has this coma, it's this SET, and it has all these lenses in front, and I look at it visually, like it's perfect. All the stars, the whole field is just perfect dot. So are you saying that
Oh,
when you put a camera, then you need
no,
Yeah, I'm
because
looking
yours is an f10, right? It's an f10, so it's a slow. When you start getting faster optics than about f6, the center where the amount of area that the stars are just points starts to get smaller and smaller, and you have these little flary things. And actually, visually, Tom, when I use the 8-inch, if I'm at a dark site and just using it for a visual, I really never noticed the coma. It never really bothered me because I'm looking at the object in the middle, and I never really pay attention. I never really noticed it much. And in the photograph, man, it hits you and it hits you in the head like a hammer. I mean, it really is obvious. But on this whole picture, though, this picture here, this is the eyes. But this Look at this galaxy here. Looks like a small comet, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a really curious thing. I looked online, and everybody has that same like fantail type of thing. I don't know. It must have been some kind of maybe there's a fainter galaxy behind it or something. It's 15th magnitude, so it's pretty faint. But it must be a weird angle that it just is looking at it at.
Is this in Markarian's chain?
It's part of it. The
Part of
eyes
Yeah,
are
it's like
part.
this is the zoomed in part. Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of it. It's the eyes. It's kind of
Yeah.
the center of it.
Okay,
I
okay.
liked
Yep.
I shot it because there was a lot of things in the field of view, but also this galaxy is so distorted. It's
Yeah, it's
pretty
wild.
interesting to get.
Falling apart.
Yeah. Oh, there's the sun. Not a great shot. It was a noisy day, but it's relatively recent. It's since the last meeting. This is a curious shot. I was just talking about how fast the sun moves. This little spiky prominence here, that was nothing. Went up to this and went back to nothing in probably about 12 to 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Because I have other pictures. I only had one video that had this in it. Nobody else. They weren't there for any of them, except that one. Weird. This is just a close up of an arch thing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Another
Nice
one.
shot.
This is more recent. This is when I sent this out. I think this is when I sent out. I believe.
Wow.
That's the one that you had the animation of too?
Yeah, that's what this is here.
There it goes.
What's kind of fun is this top thing is kind of fun. I was hoping that these other filaments would have a little action, but at least this one on top had some action at the very beginning of the video.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to watch them, contort.
These
And
are videos that like a slow motion or something, or real time.
this is actually actually sped up, I
Yeah.
guess, because covers about 2 hours, and there's about 150 frames or 55 frames or something.
Okay, so it's like a frame every few seconds.
Every nine, I'm showing this at 9 frames a second.
Okay. Today it was shot at 9 frames a second? No.
No, I was shooting really fast with the sun, anything with the solar system. That's all I got. Anything with the solar system, except for the moon, but the sun. Well, in white light, it's not as big a deal. But if you're going to do like solar prominences or the planets, you really have to shoot at very high frame rates because in a place like Jupiter, it's rotating so fast. I don't want to take a movie more than like 35 seconds. Same thing with the sun. The sun changes so quickly. I try to limit my videos to 30 seconds, no more than that.
So these
But
are
I want to have an awful lot of frames.
Sorry, so these are a bunch of 30-second videos.
A bunch of 30-second videos that I then took the
separated
video
by-
like I would a planet. I took the video. It was about 4,000 frames, and I stacked them to one, and I picked the best, I think the best 1,000 frames, and stacked it, and then worked with that. So
wait,
it came out as
still, I'd like to understand this. So you would take a video of 30 seconds and
Yep.
then you wait for a while and take another video of 30 seconds.
right, yeah, because SharpCap has
process-
that too.
and
Yeah, I would
process
just I told it to take a 30-second video every 2 minutes.
Okay, that's the answer I was looking for.
Yeah, that's
And
what
then
I was-
each one is separately processed, creates
Yep.
one picture, and then you put them all
Yeah.
together.
But now that
Okay,
seems like a
yeah.
lot of work, right? It was 155 images, but for the sun, I think it's called IMPPG. I use that for hydrogen alpha because it's great because I'll pick one of the I'll take the first image and you can keep it in the regular type of view where it's a more natural view, or you can do the inverted sun so the prominences have more of a three-dimensional effect and keep the prominence normal. And once you do one, you can save your settings, and then you can say batch process. You do them all, and it takes literally like, I don't know, 12 seconds or something, so they're all done. Likewise, that same program allows you to, it aligns all the images. You can do a batch align, and so it puts them one over another so the video is not jumping around. And so you can do all that, and then I'll bring that into Lightroom, not Photoshop. I'll bring it into Adobe Lightroom, where I'll just play with the contrast a bit and the brightness maybe, or anything I want to do with that. And in the case of like this single image, I want to colorize it. I'll just add some color I'll draw an ellipse around and just color the surfacey. We'll call it the surface part, even
Okay,
though it's
I get it. That's the detail I was missing. Like, how do you actually shoot it? The processing it's kind of sort of standard in a way, but
yeah, really it is. It's the same thing you do for Jupiter, same thing you do
Right.
for the moon or any of those. But you have to shoot. The thing is, in the daytime, the atmosphere is really pretty crappy usually. And like Gary was saying, it's better in the morning, but with mine, it's not, I don't have quite that luxury because my house is in the east. So I have has to get above the roof. And by the time it gets above the roof starts to get warm. So that causes me trouble. So I have to wait till about 11, at least 11 o'clock before I can really start shooting. And, but then I'll just, and I have to shoot a lot of frames because I'm going to throw 75% of them away, maybe 80% away. So with those images, I think I shot just as an 8-bit monochrome, not 16. Same camera as the Galaxies, the 174 mm. And I just try to do everything I can to get the frame rate up. And actually, on the sun, it's actually cropped down. That sensor is like a 1900 by 1000 or something, but I have it cropped down like on the planets to 900 by 900 to give me my frame. Otherwise, my frame rate's about 60, and I can get it up to about 160. So I get a lot more frames in that 30 seconds that I have to capture them. So I kind of do that.
What percentage of frames are you using, Tom, out of that 30 seconds? Do you have sort of a rule of thumb for that?
I use as many as I can before it starts to go crappy. And what I do is with Auto Stacker, once you bring it in, do the analysis, there's a little slider that's next to the image.
Right.
And I slide and I look at the quality value. And I don't want to have more frames. If the quality drops below 50%, I don't use those. But
Okay.
I'll look at it, and if I shot say 4,000 frames, and the quality at 50 at where it goes to 50% is maybe 2,000. Well, maybe I'll back that off to like 1,500 or 1,000. Try to get it closer to like 58, the best like 58%, 60%,
Okay.
of the best frame, and
Yeah.
I'll stack those. But you want to stack as many as you can, even with the planets too, because then you can, if you sharpen it, you're not going to get these weird artifacts and funny stuff happen. If you got, on the planets, I try to get at least 2,000 frames because that way you can sharpen it without goofy things happening.
Yeah. Cool.
Anyway, that's all I got.
Does SharpCap have guiding capabilities?
You can use a guide camera. I haven't, so I can't say exactly how you can, but you probably
think it
have,
works
John,
with
right?
PhD2.
Yeah, use
Right.
PhD2 for that. Yeah.
That's how I was doing it. I use PhD2 with Nina also. So you run both of them. PhD2
Oh,
to
so you're
get all
running
the
it
guidance.
separately.
Yep,
Yeah.
but they talk to each other.
Yeah.
So when you start PhD2 up, it opens a little port, and you go into your settings in SharpCap or Nina, and you tell it, I want to use PhD2, and they'll talk to each other.
Yeah.
John, you're talking
separate
about for
programs.
deep sky stuff.
Deep sky.
Yeah.
Were you talking about for daytime for the sun?
No, I was talking
No.
about deep sky.
Okay.
Yeah, Steve's deep sky.
Good point.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Tom is just out of principle. He's not going to use it.
I have a reputation to maintain.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
I was just trying to make a point.
Yeah, right.
So I've shot like 2-second subs, and I still guide.
Okay.
So I'm like
That's
the
like
opposite,
that's one guide pulse.
right?
Yeah, really.
I turn my guiding down to 1 second or half second. Yeah.
So you get two. You get two guide poles. So,
so when you're guiding, are you guiding on both axes or just one?
Both.
And even in 2 seconds, it makes it useful.
I don't know about that, but
I mean, the
I
mount.
bought the stuff. I want to use
But
it.
that's beside the point.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And,
the
and
I
mount.
get it.
And then you have to dither every 500 frames, whether you need it or not.
Yeah.
Mount accurate enough to do that? Oh, you don't have an hour. Oh, do you have a mount? You have an hour, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I have a permanent pier put in my backyard, so I don't have the alignment issues. If you're going to a site where you're setting up, guiding gets more important because you're probably, unless you spend a lot of time, being exactly exact, like Gary's can get his really accurate, but if you're off by 10 minutes of arc or something, you're really going to want to, guide
That
like
might be
crazy.
a good topic about how did you align a telescope properly for astrophotography, for visual, practical.
Yeah.
I know there are a bunch of YouTubes, but it'd be good to, I don't know, more personal.
Yeah, I did make note of that, Tom. I put down on one of the possible topics of interest is a polar alignment. Because there are a number of techniques. I mean, if you go back to conventional, it's called declination drift, where you get it as close as you can, and then you basically watch to see how a star is moving over time. You give it 10 minutes, and then you see how much the star has moved, and that like where it's moved this way, and then you make sort of the opposite adjustment of what you would think to move it back. And there's whole techniques on that. Those olden days of doing, I know from a guy who wasn't super good at it, it would take me 40 minutes sometimes, half hour, 40 minutes to get a good polar alignment. With the tools now, like Nina has built-in polar alignment routines, ASI Air has built-in polar alignment routines.
A lot of the mounts have
I
cameras.
can like on a fresh setup. Like Tom, when we were at the star party
Yeah.
the other night, you could barely see Polaris.
Oh,
So
yeah.
barely visible. So it was still kind of twilight. And it took about 2.5 minutes to be less than one arc minute.
What about just the old-fashioned way? I have a polar scope and I've got this picture and I lot and
Yeah, well, that's what I'm
that.
talking about.
How good is that? It seems
It's not bad, but in order to do long exposure astrophotography, you would need to do something in addition to that. The polar scope's only going to get you so close. And then after that, you use a technique called this like declination drift or something like that to make sure that it's that your polar scope is good. Because the polar scope, if you look at a polar scope, right, they have typically an etched reticle in there. And that etched reticle has the sort of how the stars are changing over time, right? Some like my old Los Mandy has a polar reticle from the year 2000, and it goes to 2010. Well, it's 2025 now. So if I use the polar scope, I have to kind of extrapolate these two, the three stars that you kind of line up in the polar reticle. You have to kind of say, well, they'd be around here in another 15 years. Because this is how far they were in 10 years.
That must be going back very much in time. And now you have an app where it tells you exactly where Polaris is versus North Pole, and you just put it exactly on the clock.
Right.
I mean, the whole circle is like what, 1 degree?
Yeah.
So if you get it right in a little tiny circle, it seemed like it would be like how much better can you be?
I try to get within like 10 arc seconds.
Yeah, that would be good enough. That would probably be good enough for most stuff. Like my Ioptron mount has that little polar scope with the app, and you use that. That's pretty good. And you might be within five arc minutes or something like that.
If you shoot short, I mean, it's not going to be any problem with planets because you're shooting so short. And if you shoot short subs,
yeah,
I mean, 10-second subs, you're not going to have any trouble.
Yeah.
10 seconds, It's where you start getting into these ridiculous length of subs of like a minute or two or longer. The insanity.
Absolutely ridiculous.
5, 10 minutes.
10 minute subs. You're out of your mind.
So my experience so far has been planets, and I thought, hey, this is steady. I can go have dinner, come back 2 hours later, it still sits in the same place.
It's funny with an eyepiece, maybe 7, 8 arc seconds. which visually is nothing, but
Yeah.
when these sensors are I'm so zoomed in, it makes a difference.
Yeah, I was just happy that after 2 hours after dinner and having
Burn out now.
Nope, you got it there.
So this is from the star party that night. It's backwards to me. Is it forward to you?
You're good.
Yes, yeah, it's good to us.
Like 25 arc seconds?
Yeah. And that's in over 2 minutes. That's with the ASI Air though.
It's so
Yeah.
fast.
Because that's doing, the plates, I know not to overturn. The one thing is when you get close, I mean, you're talking a 16th of a turn, an eighth of a turn to get under that one arc minute kind of number. But to that point, right? That's
Yeah,
1/12 of a degree, right? If you had 5 arc minutes, that would probably be enough. I'm amazed, like when you get it down to that, and it's easy to do. Like if I spot check from one night to the next, I turn on and spot check, and you'll do a little tweak. It could be 30, 40 seconds, and I'm below an arc minute in both directions. At that point, like Tom, when we were doing the Mars moon.
yeah,
Occultation, I barely had to touch the scope. I wasn't guiding. It was just pointed there. I set the scope to a lunar rate, basically,
yeah.
and it just sat there. I mean, I think I touched it maybe once every 5 minutes or 10 minutes just to center a little better.
Cool.
So that's just something that, the better that it doesn't have to be that good, especially if you're guiding. But the better it is, the less you have to play with stuff.
Mhm.
If you can do it quickly, then I mean, I'd like to know how to do that. So
Okay.
that'd be a great topic, I think, if you somehow show and also record it or so for other people,
Yeah.
or maybe it's even live. I don't know.
Any other, we're getting close to time here. Any other pictures that anyone has or projects? I know, Steve, you were working on stuff in terms of getting your new setup. Any
Well,
with that?
I mean, I haven't imaged much in the past 6, 8 months, due to a number of reasons. One of them was some health issues. And then when I was feeling better, I went outside I have a permanent pier with a telescope on it that's out there under a gizmo cover 365 days a year. So I had trouble with it just before I had the health problems. I had some trouble with it. And I just physically put it back to home position, put the cover on it, and then came back to it a few months later. So I did that like 3 weeks ago. I uncovered it and found out what my previous problem was, and that was the one direction of the declination axis was not working. Now, this is a harmonic drive. So I did a little bit of playing around with it outside, but I ended up bringing it all in the house. And after a lot of YouTube searching and the hand controller that comes with this is a Warp Astron drive. The hand controller that comes with this is just stupid. So it's in order to get down into the sub menus of this hand controller, was a chore. But eventually, after many hours of effort, I came across a reset home, which in their terminology is reset to factory. And when I finally did that, the mount is working.
Oh, great.
That's good.
So it's sitting next to me, waiting to go back outside.
Oh, nice.
And so hopefully in the next few weeks, maybe I'll have some images to share.
Yeah.
I got one I can
You were
share.
doing that mirror cell also with the 3D printing and stuff like that. With that scope you were putting together?
Yeah, there were a lot of issues with that, and that's sitting on the shelf of, I got to get back to it.
Yeah.
So nothing went smooth there. I printed that with a 3D printer, all of the structure of that homemade telescope. And when I first took it outside, the sun melted it.
Oh, no. Oh,
Yeah.
geez.
It's
So
a different filament.
when I say that, not entirely, just
Yeah,
the
yeah.
skin of it warped.
Worked it.
So I realized that the material I was using shouldn't be in direct sunlight. So I did find the right material. I've got a couple of rolls of that, and I'm ready to reprint that telescope. And I have purchased mirrors that I'm using to get it going. But I do also have the blank that Tom gave me that I'm supposed to be grinding.
Okay.
Hey, Steve, what kind of a filament did you use that it's not susceptible to heat like that?
The PLA.
Just PLA or because
Yeah,
PLA
the
is pretty
PLA
soft.
filament.
But that's pretty soft, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess.
PLA also isn't UV stable. So yeah, unfortunately PLA, if you put it in the sun, always has issues.
So
Good
I've
for
got-
prototyping, but not
What
good
should you
for
use? What should you use for
I bought some ASA, which is supposed to be okay.
Is
AS?
your printer enclosed?
No,
ASA you have to be enclosed.
Yeah, you can
do you
buy
think
it.
so?
Yeah, they're like ASA is the next iteration after ABS, but ASA requires an enclosure to keep
So-
it temperature stable.
I
It's
have
a-
the Lego printer, and this is a Lego ASA. So based on that, I was going to give it a try, which I haven't yet. But I know there's a lot of quirks with these filaments and, different printers.
So Scott, what filament should one use as the hardest that doesn't require enclosure?
Well,
I
I'm
mean,
not sure.
PETG isn't too bad. I mean,
PETG?
especially since you're not doing it in the sunlight all the time. I mean, if you're trying to keep it outside, that's a whole different thing. But being a telescope at night, PETG should be, I would think, would be good enough. I mean, PETG is essentially what plastic bottles are made from. With it, so
What is that? PET what?
PETG.
G? Okay.
Yeah, it's usually referred to as PETG, but yeah, and that one's fairly easy to print. Like that one, you don't have to have an enclosure or anything with. So,
Yeah, that's good.
I would think probably PETG. I just got into doing PETG. I've been doing PLA mostly just for ease of it because PLA is the easiest thing to print, but the other filaments have other properties to it.
Yeah, so I need to. So any printer will work. I have a bamboo, which is a simple one, and that would work fine with that.
I don't know too much about most of the printers, but essentially PETG prints around 250 degrees. So as long as your printer can go to 250 degrees, it's a little bit on the higher, but I think most of the modern printers can do it. My printer is 8 years old, so I have limits because of the age of my printer.
Yeah. No, I'm have to design some holder for my focuser, and I'm looking for making something that would be permanent, not melt.
Right. Yeah, and PETG should be pretty decent for that.
Sandy, you said you had an image.
Yeah, I had an image, of course, I've never shared before, so someone's got to step me through this.
Bottom of the screen, there's going to be a little green arrow pointing up.
Okay, got it. It says share screen.
Yep.
Click on that. Okay, and I guess this is what I'm going to share.
Whatever.
Oh, we see it.
Oh,
Pinwheel?
Yeah, that's 101.
Oh, 101. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
I did this the last time I was down in Chiefland at the end of April. I originally thought I had gotten like 7 hours on it, but then I realized that the first night, I always use a Botanoff mask to start focusing, and the temperature seemed pretty stable. So, I haven't been able to figure out how to set up Nina with the autofocus. So, what I usually do is go to a bright, after temperature drops 3 degrees, I go to a bright star, put the mask back on, refocus,
Oh,
go back to the image. And I said, oh, fuck it. Pardon my French. I said, temperature was stable enough. I'm going to do it. But then, and this is the first, I'm just getting started using Nina also. So I didn't really zoom in to make sure that, the image was looking good. It kind of like, the small image you got on the screen. Oh, that looks pretty good after, download each sub. Well, the first night's image, the focus was not good. So I had to scrap that. So this is about 2.5 hours worth of exposure. My scope that I use down there is a C11 Edge with at f7. So it's a 1960 millimeter focal length. And it's the first time that I started to, did any imaging with, I got the 2600 MC Pro because I had been using the 294, but I was having some issues with, color cast and stuff like that I haven't figured out yet. So, and the processing, actually, my buddy helped me with because, I'm still trying to work through the processing stuff, watched a whole bunch of PixInsight videos, and I just need to get off my fat ass and, dump in some raw stuff. But the processing was done in Maxim DL, which is what I used to use a lot of, and then tweaked in Photoshop.
Looks good, Sandy.
they're good
Looks
colors.
really good, yeah.
My wife and I were down in Florida, in Jacksonville for this past week. It was her dad's 94th birthday. And I drove her over to Chiefland because I wanted to prove to her that all these years that, I said I've been going down there, that the place really exists. And,
Yeah. See
and I
your other
wasn't
family.
and I wasn't going down to Florida for 2 weeks and hanging out at some titty bar or something.
That's right, yeah.
So,
It's funny. What camera is this?
Yeah.
What camera, Sandy?
Say again?
I'm sorry, what camera is this?
Oh, this is the 2600
Okay,
MC Pro.
okay.
So, and the things you were talking about with there was a good article in this May issue of Sky and Tel with the image scale formula that you were talking about before, Gary. I forget what the name of the article was, but he basically was shooting, more at things like F10 and stuff like that, and getting like real crisp images of like planetaries and things like that. So it's kind of a neat article. But yeah, I got lots of raw images that, from going down there over many years that I need to, like I said, learn how to process. So hopefully at some point I'll have more stuff to show.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is
Yeah,
beautiful.
nice.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
I did put a link to my Google Drive, that file that I was talking about with the image scale.
Oh, great.
So if you want to grab that, it's up there. I made it so anyone with the link can grab the file.
Okay. And I guess you can download these the
Yeah,
chat.
you just download the file.
Okay.
It's
Well,
it says
save the
Google
chat.
Google.com spreadsheets.
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
So it's real simple. In fact, I can show it real quick. Anyone else have any other images?
no, that's it.
Anything?
I'm lucky I got one.
I got one.
Go ahead, Paulie.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
51.
nice.
So this is with the Sea Star. I got about 15 and a half hours on this out of South
Oh,
Bend.
you
Wow.
mackerel.
Wow.
That's incredible with the Sea Star. Jeez.
Wow.
Wow.
What did you process that with?
So I just real quick so I started in PixInsight, just got a little bit, but most of it was done in Infinity. I'd say probably 75% of my processing I just do in Infinity. I just do a quick stretch, get it out of there. I'm not real happy with, well, as I say that, this is about the fifth attempt at processing this that I threw away. Um, not too happy with the stars on this one, but I think I actually got the galaxy looking pretty good.
Yeah, I'll
Remarkable.
say.
Yeah,
Did
It's
that's
a pretty
great.
small object. So
Did a
you got
equatorial mount this time or just
Oh, alt azimuth.
okay, so
How
you
many hours at a time?
Oh, so this actually started back in December. So I think I've got 9 different sessions I was out there
wow.
putting
Okay.
it all together. I ended up throwing about 35% of it out. Um, but yeah, ended up at
Cool.
15 hours so far.
wow.
You're pulling some of those tidal tails out. That's wild. I can't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, one, the Sea Star impresses me, but two, I do not have good skies here in Philly.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. Time.
Yeah.
East Coast
Amazing though.
City or
Yeah,
what? Where are you?
that's impressive though.
Where are
Especially
you?
with the light polluted skies.
Yeah, just patience does a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Where are you located?
I'm down by the stadiums here in
Oh,
Philadelphia.
wow.
Mm.
By the city?
I'm in the city, and
Okay.
and this is drifting north, so I'm pointing in the wrong part. I
Yeah,
need to
you're
find a
aiming.
target that's
Yeah, you're aiming
somewhere in
over
old
Center
freaking
City.
Delaware.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's like right over Ben Franklin's hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Wow, that's
Well,
amazing.
that's amazing.
Great job. Great
That's
job.
Yeah, no,
really cool.
it's been a fun one. That I've, life gets in the way all the time, and between that and less than perfect skies down here, the Sea Star is really nice. I mean, I can have it unboxed and up and running in 5 minutes, go to bed, not worry about it. It's a great little alternative to at least keep things moving forward
Yeah.
without getting too engaged in it.
So how do you do multi-day? How does it come back and continue?
Just in Pixinsight when I stack, I mean, you got to go through and debear and stack everything separately, and then I just restack. I just throw them all together. There's no bias frames, no flat frames, no nothing. You just slap it all together and hope for the best.
But as far as imaging, these are all independent sessions.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's just shy of 6,000 images in here.
Wow.
So you
That's
just,
amazing too. Some of the faint, there's probably some like 18th magnitude galaxies. There's a couple
Oh,
little
I think
teeny
over here
guys
to the
in there.
right, I've got
Yeah.
one.
If you have it like yeah, there's a little one there and then down underneath. Yep, right
Here,
there.
I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they're really faint. It just
Oh,
goes to show how deep you can get with with enough exposure time.
Immigration.
I'm half of me is I've had enough of this bloody place. And the other half is I wouldn't mind getting another 15 hours on this and just seeing what could you do.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
just to pick up those outer like swirls of the galaxy, that outside of a dark sky site, that's hard to get.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Nope, it's
Nice
been a
job.
fun one.
That's cool.
oh, it's sleepy time.
Anything else before we wrap up, or?
I'll mention one thing that I learned this month.
Yeah.
I've used Bakhtinov's filters on my telescopes occasionally. I just recently learned there is something called a tri-Bakhtinov filter, which is very useful for collimation of Schmidt-Cassellans. And I had never heard of it before. I've got one arriving tomorrow, 3D printed by somebody on Etsy. But it gives you 3 sets of lines, and I don't know. There's some free software I guess you can use with it that helps to do the collimation.
Yeah.
But it's just I'll know more about it in the future after I get one and try it.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear more about that. I looked into those a couple years ago, and it seemed like it was really promising to they have the things on the angles and stuff
Yeah.
but I've never tried it. I wasn't sure how to
And
do it. So I'm curious to
the
know.
the one I got comes with a separate mask that blocks 1/3 of it at a time. And I haven't fully digested how to use it, but after I get it, I'll learn what it does, because I hate collimating a Schmidt Cassegrain, and if this makes it easier, I'm there for that.
Yeah. Let us know. That would be a great topic.
Yeah.
That would be a good topic. I'd like to know how to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
There's a video on that on Farpoint Astro. It's one of the companies that sells astronomy equipment.
Yeah,
So,
I've seen a couple of videos I've watched on it,
yeah.
and it looks interesting to me.
I'm with you, Wayne.
Yeah.
Check it out. I didn't even know that my telescope can be collimated.
So maybe right just before we wrap up, I'll just show that spreadsheet real fast. And then you can, this way whoever has downloaded it can know how it works. So can you see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, so this particular one is just has one camera, one scope, and then a lens on it. So what I did when Tom was talking about that, I looked up the specs on that 174 camera, and it's 5.86 micrometer per on each side of the pixel, 1936 active pixels horizontally, 1216, and then it'll calculate. So the green cells are the input cells on this. So no green cells are input cells. And then what that does is it takes whatever focal length is in this cell, and it takes these numbers here and calculates the image scale based on this formula. The formula is quite simple. It's you take the pixel size in micrometers, and then let me do this. I don't know if I can zoom. No, this.
You make it bigger?
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's not Excel. It's going to add a worksheet. I should be able to. Actually, let me do control. It's in a, yeah, let me just do that.
Yeah.
Excel has the little plus and minus on the bottom. But so you take the pixel size in micrometers, which is this, divide that by the focal length in millimeters, which is that, and then multiply that quotient by 206. Now 206 has some decimal points and other stuff, but this is close enough. And the 206 you can derive if you want to look into that from how many radians are in a circle and all that kind of stuff. So for planetary work, your target is to try to get really oversample it like crazy. So you're looking for like 1/4 to 1/2 an arc second per pixel image scale. For deep sky, you're typically going to be in that 1.25 to 1.5 range arc seconds per pixel for typical seeing. If your seeing is really good, like if you were down at at like something shooting over the ocean, like the Star Party down in the Florida Keys, then you can go to a more towards like 1 arc second, something like that, or less, less than 1 1/4. So this is really, really handy. What I've done is if I so typically what I have is so these are ones that I just did recently for other people, but this is so I have a spreadsheet that has all my different cameras, and it's just that spreadsheet. This is designed so that if you grab these cells and just insert paste, it'll keep the formulas. The formulas are they're relative reference, but relative when they need to be, hard when they need to be. So the spreadsheet's fairly well behaved. So if I zoom out on this is for like the 2600 MC or MM. My C11, C9 1/4. This was like the scope Lou has. I don't have that scope, but I was just toying with an 8-inch. In my refractors, and then just a general lens. And you can, at a glance, see exactly what your image scale is. This is like with a focal reducer, f6.3 focal reducer. So that formula is this focal length times 0.63, you know, times that, and so forth and so on. So like with my TV85, which I shoot a lot, the native focal length is 600 millimeters. With the 0.8 focal reducer, ideally it would be 480. I actually get between 476 and 479, so it's actually really true, and that's actual value from plate solving it, the yellow, and so forth and so on. So it's a really handy little tool for just you know, quickly checking sort of where you are with various setups. Like if I do my C9.25 with my planetary camera, the 485, it would be this setup here. So it's 2600 millimeter native at 5.6. If I'm doing wide field stuff, like deep sky stuff, I should say, it comes out to that. I use a 2x power mate on that when I'm shooting planetary. And I'm actually way oversampled on that. If I had like a 1.5, or I used a Barlow at a different length, it would be a better image scale for planetary. So that's the spreadsheet that I sent out is this one with just a single row and then a miscellaneous lens. And again, you can grab these and you can, you know, copy and then insert paste. If you're in Excel, you can do an insert paste. I think here you have to insert and then do it. I'm not sure what that is. Replace image. Anyway, let's Control Z. But the spreadsheet is well behaved. You can see it uses partially absolute references versus relative, depending on what the cell is. So that's that. And we can go into more detail in some future meeting on that. So
Maybe time for me.
again,